Hi, Muchismo Eugene. Welcome to another video from Exit Strategy. Please like, subscribe, share the video if you found it helpful. Give it a thumbs up and pass it on if you believe someone else would benefit from it. I would appreciate that. I'm going to kind of pick up where Drewski left off. But I'm not going to clown the church, and it's not going to be funny. Let's talk about the conscious collective. The conscious collective are groupings of people. Most of the world are the conscious collective. What this looks like is you go to work, you make a paycheck, you come home, you buy the necessities and some of the luxuries that a job affords. This has a lot to do with going along to get along. You've built your framework around certain do's and don'ts. And most of those things you do not so much out of a desire that comes from within. It's most often from something that you adapt from outside of you, meaning you're doing what everyone else is doing. You grow up, go to school, get out, go to college, you get an education that sometimes yields you a great job. And a lot of times we know now that that just isn't the reality. But nonetheless, we are the last person to tell ourselves the truth, and we are the first persons to lie to ourselves. But it is infiltrated from society, obviously, the things outside of ourselves. This forms a conscious collective, a group or groupings of people who are doing basically the same old, same old. Now, the conscious state of an awakened empath, this changes that game completely, because when you awaken, you become highly aware and in tune first and foremost with yourself. So now you're able to look outside of yourself and perceive things in a totally different way. You can see that there's no end to the rat race. You can see that these things, that this carrot that has been hung before you is it's going to continue to elude you. And so I've been doing some studying on this, and the collective, the conscious collectives are pretty much the masses that are sometimes they are very reactive. And that's on purpose. That's by design, by the powers that be on this earth. Imagine not an awakened empath, but someone who is hell-bent on darkness and deceit, getting a hold of this insight and this knowledge, and are able to see how they can use this to their advantage in a dark way. That is what you have going on. There are people that know exactly what awakened empaths know, but they're using it for sordid gain. They have the knowledge and the insight, but they're not awakened in the way that empaths are. They don't have the empathy. They don't have the awakening of knowing that a lot of us in society are going down a dark road of no return. The empath sees that in a very humane way. But you take someone that has this insight, but there's no heartfelt consideration for mankind. They use this to their gain and to the destruction of mankind. And this is what we're dealing with. But when you're an awakened empath and you understand this conscious collective, they relate to you on a whole different level, or you're unrelatable, if you will. Like I was talking about in the last video, when you do the shadow integration and the shadow work on yourself, this is what brings you to this conclusion of seeing that some of these things are futile. So even if you don't share this with other people that are unlike you, they will sense the changes in you, and the conscious collective specifically in particular, they will sense that you're not moving the way they're moving. From politics to their religious beliefs to the union jobs to pledging allegiance to the flag, to all of the things that we have adopted in society or have been integrated into society to bring about a desired purpose for certain specific people or powers. Now, I could get deeper into this, but again, awaken as an empath that's done some of the shadow work on self, seeing the things that I see. You're not going to be able to show people things that you see. And you know, when I saw Drewski do what he did, I was not offended. I was not put off. I was not even elated that he was clowning the church. I was really saddened that someone like him can, I won't say prophetically because it wasn't prophetically, he's not done anything differently, or he's not said anything that hasn't been said before. But somehow or another, he orchestrated this to bring worldwide attention. And he did it in a comedic way. And that's just like somebody's making fun of you pretending to be something you're not. It should be an awakening of self. In the comforts of your home, in your isolation, Christian you be, you should be able to say, this guy's got me thinking. He's giving me something to think about. There's a story in the Bible, Samuel, who was coming up under the realm of, or under the tutelage of Eli. I don't know if any of you know the story. If you don't, go check it out. It reads pretty much like Samuel looked up to Eli, and Eli was pretty much his mentor. Long story short, Samuel was dreaming. He was sleeping. He had a dream. And the dream, someone spoke to him. And he woke up and ran right into Eli's room and say, master, or whatever they used the terminology at that time. I would assume master out of honor and subserviency. He said, did you call me? So Eli say, no, I didn't. Go back to sleep. The dream, he heard a voice a second time. He woke up, went right back to Eli and asked him, you called me? And Eli said, no, I didn't call you. And the third time he said, Eli pretty much told him, if someone calls, just listen. I pretty much basically think that's how it went. So the third time Eli listened, or Samuel listened, and it was God speaking to him. And at that time, prophecies were very rare. And so Samuel listened, and he conveyed the message to Eli. And it was a hard message too. The very person that was teaching Samuel, they say a student is never above the master or the teacher. Well, in this case, the student pretty much clowned Eli. He gave him a stern warning. And this is the way I see Drewski doing what he did. It's a stern warning to believers who say they believe in God, who say they are Christians, followers of Christ. The world's been clowning Christians for forever. And it took someone like Drewski. Now the church coming at him. The ones so-said Christians are coming at him. See, when you're being met with that mirror of who you really are deep down and dirty, it's not received well. So I'm taking this analogy or this comparison, which it parallels when you are awakened as an empath. You do the shadow work and integration on yourself, shadow integration on yourself. Now you're seeing in a whole different way without even speaking. And God forbid you start sharing some of this insight. People think you're clowning them. And it's insulting rather than soothing and eye-opening. And so when Samuel told Eli, you're going to get dealt with by God because, you didn't do what you should have done where it regards to holding your kids accountable, his sons in specific. They were pretty much the deacons and they had positions in the church where they were running things, but they were running around and doing different things that were outside of the will of God. And so this is not a beautiful story, but it's a story that has been on repeat for centuries, because the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. This is nothing new that Drewski did. Drewski did basically the same thing that Samuel did to Eli. Not to equate Drewski with Samuel, because Samuel was truly a prophet, and Drewski is someone who's on the platform of entertainment. But let's say God spoke to Drewski, and he heard a voice, and the voice said, I need to do this, but I'm going to do it in a fashion in which it's going to either shake these half-hearted believers up, or it's gonna piss them off. Either way, it's going to be a win-win, because I'm going to give them something to think about. And so this conscious collective, they don't want no part of being to get the rectification, or to be reminded or snapped out of this trance that they're in. Because if they have to abort and abandon the way that they've been living for so long, that would mean that the way they've been living is all wrong. And that brings shame, that brings disgust, that brings fear of change, that brings a lot of things. The human being, and that's much like a narcissist, they run away from what they should be running towards, which is change, which is evaluation of self. That is the most powerful thing that I believe a human being possesses. The will and the wherewithal to not only be told or confronted with a fault, but be able to accept it and have a hunger to deal with it. I'm not going to say I'm just gung-ho when I need to correct or be corrected by anything or anybody, circumstances, whatever you might, whatever you might say in that respect. But I do see the rewards of accepting what has happened or what situation that came about, and to be able to understand what parts I played into it, because that's a working towards trying to solve the problem or alleviate the stresses of having to repeat this thing. But a lot of us, for the sake that it's just too tough, the fears in the beginning of realizing that you should or need to change or been confronted with something that needs to be dealt with, that fear sometimes is so intense. That fear makes us run away, and we don't revisit that thing at all. This is the same thing that happened in the Garden of Eden. They ran and hid. God called out to them. Can you imagine if they had just, came out with their hands up? Hey, you got me. I disobeyed what you kindly, directly, and sternly told me that was not in my benefit, in my best interest. We all make mistakes, but the Bible talks about even when a fool is corrected, he's considered wise. He's considered wise. Even a fool. And we've all played the fool. So the conscious collective are pretty much just guinea pigs. We're guinea pigs of this perpetuated agendas that we see happening in our world, both now, past, and many that are going to continue to happen. I can name a few things, but I would rather each and every one of you individually start to search within yourself, which is a big part of coming to an individuation stage. That means shut out all the noise. Put those psychological earphones on and just begin to sit with your thoughts. As hard as they might be, sit with them. Sit with them and see if you can come to a point of understanding that it doesn't make you a bad person because you got bad information. But what makes you not a healthy person is continuing to pretend that what you've been doing all your life is the way that it should be. And time again, you've been met with the results of such, and we continue to do it. You know the old adage, insanity, the definition of it, continuing to do the same thing, expecting a different result. In the Christian churches, the Catholic churches, the Islam churches or mosque, you know, I would even believe Buddhist monks. All of these entities where spirituality and religion is concerned is there is none of this stuff that I have discovered. I would believe that a lot of this monks they concentrate on deep thoughts. I don't know a lot about their faith and different things like that, but I do understand that this type of information, you won't find it in the church. There are some writings that have been written on the consciousness, the psyche and the pathology of such things as the shadow work, shadow integration, individuation, and the self state. And this is no exception. The collective, the conscious collective, which is just the masses as we see them, not only seemingly majority rules, but they are being ruled, and they don't even realize they are being ruled. The screws are being tweaked and adjusted for them to respond in a very orchestrated way, but they are none the wiser. And the conscious individual, such as awakened empaths who have done the inner work, are the few that see some of this stuff, but you're hard pressed to convince people. They train you to want more, get more, but never be satisfied with the little that you have. Let's take incarceration, for example. It's supposed to be a humbling experience, but they have sensationalized it through media, all the way back from the most recent reality shows such as Locked Up or Lock Up. And you can go all the way back to when we look at some of the documentaries of Bonnie and Clyde and all of these gangsters, Godfather, John Gotti, and we immortalize people because the stories sound so juicy of how these people had no regards for law, had no regard for boundaries, no regard for rules that govern society. And this is another point. This is the collective on full display. The collective, the conscious collective. We see how things have been legalized in our society, to which I won't say what they are. You already know. And it would seem like because the free will that each and every